Right then, just thought I'd come back to this one, and we're starting to get a bit more of a picture about what this poor thing's been through. So one of the things you can do in the UK, at least, these things have a yearly MOT, at least until they're 40 years old, which is I think it's motor ordnance test, but it's a test. You take it down to a testing station, and they basically check your bike over for you, make sure it's safe. Same with cars. But they record a few things, and you can see that history online. So on this particular one, the last year it was on the road, I can see that up until then it had done a few hundred miles a year, and then the last year this thing was actually on the road, which was owner before me, it did 5,000 miles in 1 year. That's not a lot, but that's back to 20 miles back to work and back all year round. That sounds about right, which means he's also been riding it in winter, in the rain, in the wet, and when the roads are salty. And that's why these wheels are, the chrome on these wheels is, this one's on its last legs, and you saw what the back one was like. But there's a bit more to this story, and as you start to dig in, you find more stuff. Now, that little piece of plastic there is just bunging up a hole in the frame just here. And if you look carefully underneath, if you can see it, that piece there is a patch, and then beyond it there's another bit of a rust spot. So we've already got one hole in the frame here, we've got a patch over what we've got to assume was a whole bunch of other holes, and then a new one forming at the front. It's not through that one yet, but I'm pretty certain if I poke it with a screwdriver it will be. Now this particular problem, I've checked all the rest of the frame's okay, but this is going to decide the future of this bike. Now if this is repairable, that's a big if. If this is repairable, it's gotta be strong. This is part of the main frame of the bike. These bikes twist a lot, these frames flex, no matter how rigid they look. The whole reason for needing that fork brace is that these things twist so much that the forks move, so this has got, whatever this is, I mean, to be honest, the patch that's on it looks strong. The welding's a bit meh, but the patch itself looks strong. So yeah, okay, maybe we can just patch these bits here, don't know. I think it's more likely we're going to cut all this out, and if what we find in here when we do that is bad, then we're going to be looking for a new frame. Good news, this is still, as I said, I've given it a bit of jet wash under here because as you can see, you have to touch it and you get dirty, but it still needs more cleaning. But this continues to be good news. I haven't seen the top of it yet, so top of it could be rusted out. I've just put some bits of plastic over there just to hopefully keep the rain out. I still haven't got the keys, which is a pain, because I really don't want to drill the seat locks out. So moving backwards, I stomped up and down on the brake pedal because that was solid, and then figured out that all linkages all the way back here were all working, and I could see this pipe moving. So I stomped on it a bit harder and got one of these to move, which unfortunately then locked up the back wheel, so I couldn't move the bike. So how to go at getting this caliper off? This is just as an example, just one little piece. Thought I'll get this caliper off so I can get the back wheel moving so I can move the bike around. This bolt came out easy, as you'd expect it to do. This one, I honestly thought it was going to snap before it came out, but we eventually, it took about an hour and a half of just gently backwards and forwards, we got that one out. Threads are okay. It's actually stripped a thread, but this particular bolt bolts into this and then provides a pin for this to float on, so that was okay. It was actually, the pin was kind of seized in there, but these threads were also seized. I mean, for God's sake, a little bit of copper slip, just put some copper slip on it. It gets a bit worse than that. Eventually got the caliper off, and I did get both of the pistons moving with a lot of pressure, so they need to come out. Now with the brake pedal I could push them all the way up against the pads, so get the pads to squeeze all the way together with the caliper off, obviously. There's a little nut here that holds a bracket that goes over the end of these clips, and these clips hold in your brake shoes. These pins are seized into the calipers, so caliper may be toast, but we'll see. And that's one of 3 calipers. On the front, if you pull, let's see if we can see, so if you look down in there you can just see the brake pad. If I pull on this here brake, you can see, if you can see it, but that one is moving. Don't know, that one doesn't move, but that one does. So I can see that gap getting smaller when I pull the brakes on. Can't see it on that one, so I don't get anything when I do that. So that caliper probably needs a lot more work. But anyway, all 3 calipers need to come off. We need to get the pistons out of those. The good news is, when you're getting the pistons out, as long as you can get the pads out, you just pump them out and they plop out. The bad news is, can't get the pads out, so can't push the pistons out, so can't do anything with that caliper right now. Again, all this stuff just needs taking off the bike, really. I'm just still playing around with what's going to need to be done. That back wheel, yeah, not going to worry about that. It's still the gift that keeps on giving, because you can still come down here when you want to and pull a bit of chrome off the bike. Oh, bad news on these shock absorbers. They're going to have to stay for now. I did get the ones off that V700 Magna, and therefore a VF700 Magna. They're not for this bike at all. They're about, oh no, 1.5 inches shorter than the 65 ones, and they've got this little lump that sticks out. I'll show you on this Magna. These are different because these are a 750, but they've got this piece here that sticks out, and that, you know, even if I wanted to drop the back end of this down, which to be fair it would take, and make it a bit more squat and put the seat a bit close to the ground, those ones won't fit because that lug we were just looking at won't go inside here. So, oh well. We'll have to keep them for now while we find a pair of 65 Magna ones. But I'm not spending money for the sake of it. Again, this bike could still be scrap, all dependent on if we can get a good repair on that tube or not. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like I'm talking about a, you know, a pile of scrap already, but I'm really not. This is good. And this is what you should expect. You want to bring one of these things back to life, you know, at very best you're going to be talking about 3 seal kits for those calipers. This is the stuff you find. Those, you know, here's a piece of good news. Here's a piece of really good news. Look, well, it doesn't snap back on its own, but I can do that. Now I know that it's connected, which means the carbs at least somewhat do what they're supposed to be doing, but they're going to be gummed up to hell. The old petrol in there will have set like varnish. They'll be glued. Those need to come out, come apart, go into the ultrasonic cleaner, and then go in again, and then probably go in a 3rd time, then be poked out with a bunch of stuff to make sure you've got all the little channels and gullies clear, and then go back in the ultrasonic cleaner again, then put them back in, then decide that they're still not clean enough. You'd just be cleaning those things. I think when I did this one, I cleaned the carbs about 6 times. They take a heck of a lot of cleaning. So yeah, be prepared for it. News update. Decided to do a bit more wiggling with a bunch of spare keys, and yeah, the same key that fit the tank with a little bit of wiggling. Managed to, well, first thing I saw was that coming down, the helmet lock, and yeah, and we got the seat off. And good news, well, good news until we test them. Both CDI units are there. In fact, all the electronics that I'd expect to be under seat are there. Ooh, look, toolbox. What's the chances there's tools in it? Oh my god, there's tools in it. Look at that. Ooh. Oh, I like that. It's not even rusty. That's a cracking little tool set. And a screwdriver and an electronic. And and a spare fuse and an electronic bypass wire. Yeah, this thing's got a history, hasn't it? Well, put that back in there. We got a toolbox. That's cool. How's that go back on? I think this is the only dry, clean bit of the bike in there. Rusty. Knew that from the outside. It's not rusted through, so savable. Now this is interesting. I've actually got a really good set of these that got these plugs on. I actually got for that bike, but that bike's got different plugs on. They're bigger for the CDI units, so I don't know, I'll have to ask the chap I got them off. V4 Muscle Bike Forum, awesome place, great resource. What else do we know while we're in here? Now here's the secondary tank, a little bit of surface rust, but we have to get, where's the, oh, this is slightly different. Yeah, it's different to the one on the V65 Magna. There's the fuel pump, looks like the genuine one. Don't know if that runs yet, won't know until we can get it started. But look, this apparently, you know, more of the being in a barn thing. It was covered in that. What else can we see while we're in here? I think that's all it's going to tell us for now. Oh, now that's interesting. I thought this plastic stuff here. So I found this on my V45 Magna. Maybe this is Honda put this in for a reason. I don't know. I thought somebody else had added this later. I mean, this has all been wrapped up with tape. So I don't know. I think that wiring loom's probably been apart at some point. That's the overflow for the radiator. So yeah, some good news in there. What is that? I've got no idea what that is. If that's a fuel filter, that's the weirdest fuel filter I've ever seen. I don't know what that is. That's something that's just going to allow the fuel to leak all over here and then catch fire. Anyway, great news. Oh, let's have the underside of the seat. 8,000 spiders. Apart from that, it's plastic. Woohoo! No rust there then. That's good news. Yeah, so there we go. We can actually get inside here and start playing around in here now. See, I can jump that fuel pump and find out if that's working. I'm just going to pray for this lot. It looks... What is that? Ah, that's the cut-off valve for the fuel pump. In here, that thing there, that's all to do, this big box here, that's all to do with the tail lights, stop light relay, 2 CDI units. Yeah, you can't tell anything from the outside of these. They either work or they don't. Great stuff. So it's complete under there as well. That was my concern, was that these would be missing, but actually with having these plugs, maybe those other ones will work. I shall ask the forum. But yeah, good. Okay. That fun and games that we had with that caliper, I think I've actually found one of those as well. I actually found pretty much the whole back brake, but yeah, so I might just swap that one out. I'll see if I can save that one later, but I need some wins on this bike. We need to start moving it forward, and we've got a swing arm to replace this one. Okay, nice replacement swing arm, so we'll get that swapped out. We'll change this out while we're at it, change out the back brake system, and then that's that bit sorted. I haven't checked to see if there's any oil, because these things are full of oil. You have to take that out and then fill it up until it dribbles out. That's where you drain it from, which is wet, so that means that's leaking. So there's probably no oil in that. Oh, look at this. Emil down at A14 salvage come up trumps again. Just went up to drop them shock absorbers back off, and he just handed me these. He said, "What are these off?" Guess what that is? That's one of them. Now, this master cylinder on this one's seized, but the one on here works. So all I need to do is undo that banjo bolt, take this back off, undo that banjo bolt, slap it back on, bleed it, done. Back brakes. Oh, it's even got a decent set of shoes in it. Pads rather. I'm not going to replace them. Now, just got to know, the killer will be if those pins move. If those pins move, sorted. Excellent. So that's one bit of good news. And the second bit of good news, look at that sweet thing. Isn't that fantastic? It's got a dent in it. It's under yellow. Not worried about that. That's beautiful. And down at this end, look at that. Oh, no rust. Well, yeah, no rust to worry about. That's fantastic. So I've just shoved that back on there for now, just to make it look a bit more complete. It's going to have to come off again because we've got to get that collector box off to repair that. But yep, more good news. Oh, we're starting to see good news. Do you know what? I don't think I'm going to wait for the locks to turn back up, because I've got this seat off now. There's no ignition in here anyway, so I'm just going to fish the plug out and put a jumper wire in it. Let's make this thing light up. That's going to be next job, I think. Alright, the keen-eyed amongst you might have noticed this, and if you look on earlier videos it looked more like that. So let's tell you the story as to why that happened, because it wasn't just me walking past and accidentally knocking it off. No. So in an earlier video you saw me starting this up, and I'm going to be honest now, that was a bit of a fake. That was the second go at me jumping when I put the screwdriver in here and said, oh, you know, let's see what happens when I start welding it. What actually happened is, there's a bit where I was rocking it backwards and forwards, got my arse on the seat going just trying to get the engine to move a bit. That was all fine. And if you remember, in that particular shot I said, got to make sure I take it out of first gear now because gear lever's seized. Well, truth is I forgot to do that. So what actually happened was, I sat there and I wasn't videoing it, and I thought, let me just stick a screwdriver across here, and yeah, and it's on its side stand. Well, it's on its center stand now, which takes the back wheel off the ground, which means the back wheel can spin. But no, it was on its side stand, which means the back wheel's on the ground, which means I bent down like this, I stuck the screwdriver in there, and the bike shot off that way, fell off its side stand, fell over, and fortunately the only bit of damage was this cheap plastic thing here, and these are just cheap copies, they're not the originals. About 15 quid. But yeah, didn't bend anything else, didn't break anything else that I've seen yet anyway. Oh god, no, thought I'd crack that there, but no, that was it. This took the full brunt of it, didn't snap that, which is the expensive bit, just that bit. So yeah, there's me being honest. So yeah, not much more of an update. I haven't really touched it, apart from, you know, spending about 4 hours playing around with that caliper. Alright guys,